pleased that this big brand has taken the name Norwich out of its title.
And binned it, yes.
Yeah, that's what they've done.
But her football club, which she is the majority shareholder, is going to get a big injection of cash. Although she wouldn't say how much.
Nick, thank you. It was good to get Delia on the show.
I know, I was really pleased. And she was watching the game. She was supporting Man United, and she's hoping for Liverpool to win tomorrow.
Oh, is she?
Interesting.
Okay.
A little bit of trivia there for you.
Now, Nick, just give us one story from the brand new financial newspapers. Is it from the FT Companies Market section? Which I know
it's
you're a big
not.
fan of.
Yeah, I love it. I'm like a pig in muck when I read that, but it's not. It's in the main section of the Financial Times and the other papers' business pages. It's the story that one of the world's largest advertising companies is threatening to quit the UK in protest at the tax regime for businesses. This is WPP. It pays £200 million annually in tax, and it's threatening to go off to Ireland. It's not the first. Two major firms have in the last few weeks decided to relocate for the same reasons, but this development is deeply worrying for the government because, of course, if big companies go over to Ireland, it means that we're not going to benefit from the tax revenues.
Okay, thank you. Just a couple of front pages. Quite a few papers, including the Daily Mail, have got the story of Prince William flying to Afghanistan. He just stayed there for 3 hours and came right back. But all the papers are reporting that. And the Sun has an interesting picture of Josef Fritzl, the Australian father at the centre of that abuse scandal. They've got a picture of him on the beach, holding a camera, and their headline is "Beast Beside at the Seaside." That's the front of the Sun, if you want to go and get that in the morning. Right, we'll go back to our discussion about conspiracy theories after the news. It's 12:35.
On DAB Digital Radio, Digital TV, downloads and online.
This is 5 Live. This is 5 Live.
With Richard Bacon.
Time to say goodbye to my presenter's friend this evening, Catherine Hood. Never properly introduced you. You're a journalist and a sexual health expert. Is that your title?
That is my title. I'm a doctor.
And a doctor. Do you work mainly in sexual health?
I do work in sexual health, in the NHS.
Okay, what's the latest news from the world of sexual health?
There's a lot of it about.
Thank you. Sexual ill health.
Ill health, yes.
All right, Catherine, thanks a lot. It's been great to see you on the show tonight.
Okay.
So we've been talking about conspiracy theories before we get, but a lot of traffic on this. Always a good topic, and we'll return to it after a quick bit of Rod Sharp, who's on at 1 a.m. Rod, what's happening?
Richard, we've got the story about how Britain could have led the way into space. We've got somebody who's writing about Sydney's pub culture, and a story from Chile, a little town in Chile, where all the older men have apparently been complaining that they don't get enough sex, so the mayor's decided to give out free Viagra. Unfortunately, he hasn't told them that that's not the only problem, but they can work that out later.
All right, Rod, thank you very much. So, is there any truth to conspiracy theories? Stuart in Londonderry. Hello, Stuart.
Good evening.
Good evening. What do you say?
Well, this is as much a conspiracy theory as a 15th century mystery. When I was living in France about 15, 20 years ago, I read this paperback book about Joan of Arc.
Yes.
And, according to this French historian, she didn't die at the stake at all.
What?
It was a drunken or drugged prostitute that shared the same prison as her, who was put to the stake. And that, in fact, Joan of Arc survived and left and married her childhood sweetheart and had a couple of kids and died at the age of 43 or something.
Yeah, that's true, that one. That's definitely true.
Well, wait a minute now. The reason that he gave the explanation of why she was survived was because she was the illegitimate daughter of the King of France. And that, the fact that why she had the power over the armies that fought England at the time, that her power came from the fact that she was the illegitimate daughter of the king. See, if you think the King of France, France wasn't united as we know it now, the territory, until about maybe 100 years later. You had the Duke of Burgundy, Duke of Normandy, Aquitaine, and so forth. Yeah. And there's still in the modern day, we still talk of Ile-de-France, the district around Paris, about a couple of 100 miles or so radius of Paris, and that's all the King of France was in charge of. Right. And according to him, that she
had his daughter, Joan of Arc.
Well, Joan of Arc, and she grew up in Remy, R-E-M-Y, and Arc, A-R-C, Jeanne d'Arc, and is her name in French, and that's why she had the power. And in fact, she didn't die at the stake at all. It was this poor girl was drugged and burned in their stead.
We shall leave that one there. If our guests want to respond to that, they may. It's still interesting. I mean,
It sounds like a good one. Good one for Dan Brown, that.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
Sequel.
I mean, I guess one of those things, there's no evidence for any of it. You could just write a book and say anything you like, can't you, about things that happened in the 15th century. Let's get David in Suffolk. Hello, David.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening. You've got a conspiracy theory that you believe in. What is it?
Well, it's about a building that fell down, apparently, mysteriously, about 3 hours after the 9/11. The towers got hit.
Right, yeah, people
the
in this
building
room-
around the back. It's been well documented, and I was hoping to speak to your American colleague, but I guess he's gone now.
No, he's still there.
Does he know anything about it? I can't remember what it was called. There's a government
Building
building.
7.
Building 7. There's actually going to be a BBC documentary about it in a couple of months' time.
Okay, let me bring Alex Jones back in. Alex, before you start ranting and shouting, explain what it is we're talking about here.
Yeah,
Listen, first off, I want to be polite. You guys invited me on here. You just had a guy for 3 minutes and 30 seconds talk about Joan of Arc. So let me just have 60 seconds.
Well, I would have made him shorter, Alex, but try not to be rude. Just tell us exactly what this building is.
Let me tell you. First off, it's free. Google Terror Storm. Google Terror Storm Final Edition, Terror Storm, or Google Endgame, or Google Martial Law. Okay, and it's the first thing that comes up. Google it on video. You can watch my films that cost hundreds of
Alex,
thousands of
please
pounds.
just explain to our listeners what we're talking about. Just tell us what it is.
Planet.com, go to Infowars.com. I'll answer your question right now. Just go to the sites, folks, who want to find out. Let me tell you. BBC reported 26 minutes before Building 7. There were 3 buildings that fell. At 5:25 in the afternoon, a 47-story
5:21.
Oh, come on.
let me just finish.
Shut up.
Let me just finish. Listen, I'm not talking about Joan of Arc. I'm talking about life and death here. A building housing the FBI and CIA imploded at the speed of gravity. Now, BBC Live, 24 and World, Bill Hayden and Jane Stanley on BBC World reported with it behind them that it had fallen in its own footprint from fires 20-plus minutes before it did. Why is that important? Someone fed them that press release, and we just talked to Mr. Hayton 2 days ago in England, and he said, yes, it sounds suspicious to him. He remembers that they were fed to say that Building 7, a modern steel building, had never fallen from fire. 3 that day, BBC reported this, and now we have firefighters, police, and others on record saying they were told to get back, the government was going to blow it up, and we have CNN footage of police saying, get back, the government's blowing it up. We have all this, and so BBC better try to make documentaries debunking us, because they can't do it, just like Gulf of Tonkin. Listen,
Alex, we've got Alex, don't let me fade you out. I want to go back to one of the guests to respond to that, because you give me. Remember, most people listening don't know anything about these conspiracy theories. You can't give them too much information at once. David, that's what you're talking about.
Yeah. I mean, it is quite well known and quite well documented that it did mysteriously fall down. And apparently, from what they got some engineers to look at the footage, people that blow buildings up for a living, and they said that it looked like it was rigged to blow up because it fell down, like your American colleague said. It fell down within its own footprint, and buildings that are hit or explode through other means explode outwards and don't gravitate, as they call it, I think, in the trade.
Okay, well, David, we'll let you go, but thanks for bringing this up, and I now get Mike Ruddin and Neil Denny to talk about this. Mike Ruddin, or is it Ruddin or Rudin?
Rudin, yeah.
Sorry, Serious Producer of the Conspiracy Files. Mike, tell us about this.
Well, yeah, there is actually, we're doing a BBC programme about it, a documentary coming out on BBC Two in June, and specifically on Building 7, Tower 7 it was. So it was the third skyscraper that came down on 9/11. It came down 7 hours after the Twin Towers. No one was in it, although that's, Alex would probably say somebody was in it, but there's been no evidence I've seen to say that somebody was in it. But it did come down, and it according to the official theory so far, it was due to an ordinary fire. But it wasn't hit by a plane. And no building, no skyscraper, no steel frame skyscraper in the world has ever collapsed due to fire only. This is the first and only one so far. Yeah. So it's strange.
Is Alex right about BBC reporters?
Yes, the BBC reported it, and so did CNN.
No, before
it happened. Yes, they did.
That.
Yeah, they made and we've spoken to the people who are involved in it, and they admit, they made a mistake.
So they made a prophecy. I mean, they
destroyed the tapes.
Yes, well, you'll find out, Alex, that we've found them as well.
Have you? So the tapes.
Okay, may I say something now?
Yeah, you can.
Okay, we just talked to the news presenter.
I saw it. I've seen it. Yeah.
Phil Hayton, and he said it does sound suspicious, but let me explain
He
something.
was a bit... He couldn't remember it, could he, when I saw that interview?
Let me just say something. We have firefighters and police. I went to New York and interviewed them. But I don't just have firefighters, police, and emergency workers. I have them from the live local report.